What's going on, guys? Carmine here, and welcome back to my Season 7 Q&A. This time we'll be taking a look at Episode 3. If you haven't seen my general impressions with the episode, then consider checking out my review, but overall, I did think it was a solid episode with some high points here and there. Cersei was definitely MVP of that episode, with Olenna coming in a close second. Be sure to leave your thoughts down below or tweet them at me, and they might make it on my next episode review or even other videos. You guys always have some great input. And as always, the next episode of the Game of Thrones podcast will be out this week, but if you're supporting me on Patreon, then you can receive it several days earlier, so be sure to follow me on Twitter or Facebook for more updates on that. But with that out of the way, let's get into it. First, let's tackle some of the general questions, some of which include why did House Tyrell fall so easily? Now, despite Olenna telling Jaime that the fighting isn't their forte, the Men of the Reach aren't weaklings. Not only do they outnumber every other region in Westeros by the thousands, they are also called the Knights of Summer, and as far as we're concerned, it's still sunny in the Reach. Granted, the Lannister army has been fighting for the better part of 3 years, ever since they had to go up against Stannis and Robb Stark's forces. You could argue that they're more battle-tested, while the Tyrell forces have not engaged in one major battle during the entire television series. And no, I'm not counting the Battle of Blackwater Bay. They were only there to assist the Lannisters in driving off the Stannis' forces. They never engaged in a fight in which they were 1v1 against another army. Regardless, the Tyrell forces should outnumber the Lannister army at least 10-1, and as well as we all know, sometimes these things can be a numbers game. In the books, Highgarden is one of the trickiest castles to lay siege to, but understandably, the show doesn't have enough time or money to waste several minutes on a siege. Even if that's the case, the Tyrells still have enough food to last them many years. If Riverwood last season held out for so long before Edmure convinced them to surrender, then Highgarden certainly could have done the same. This is sloppy work on the showrunner's part. Once again, I understand that with 7 episodes, we can't focus 2 of them laying siege to this one place, but they could have given us an explanation that, like, Randyll Tarly knew the layout and its weaknesses, which is why it didn't last very long. It would have also given, more of a reason as to why recruiting him last episode was so crucial, considering they did plan to go after the castle. Olenna saying that fighting wasn't their forte is basically showrunner lingo for saying, we spent all our budget on CGI dragons. The next question I keep receiving, mainly on Twitter, is why was the Iron Bank of Braavos supporting slavery? What's up with that? For those of you who don't know, Braavos was founded by slaves escaping the Dragon Lords of Valyria thousands of years ago, and yes, the Valyrians who enslaved them were Dany's people. It seems kind of insane that a city founded by slaves would be funding the slave trade, and it's not true to the books, but personally, I don't mind the change. I'm not one of those purists who get mad because Dany's eyes aren't purple, or Jon Snow's hairstyle isn't the same as it is in the books. The city of Braavos itself may frown on slavery, but the Iron Bank is, well, a bank. Let's be honest for a minute here. Do you really think banks, even in this world, have any ounce of decency? They have one job: make money. From slavery to funding the opposition in a war, they will find a way to get more of that gold, even if it means doing some shady things. They're a bank. However, if you listen carefully, Tycho never really said they were investing in the slave trade. Cersei just assumed that they were, and he let her continue making those assumptions. Some think him not giving a concrete answer implies their involvement, but like I said, even if they were, I would be fine with it. They're a bank, they're shady. From Facebook, Joey asks, every episode someone dies. Who do you think is next to bite the dust? We're still not far enough into the season for big main characters to die off just yet, which is why you've only seen secondary characters bite the dust. Walder Frey in the first episode, Sand Snakes in the second, and Olenna this episode. I think it'll be another 2 episodes before people start really going down who you might care about. Since we're going to get Dany's dragons joining in, then it's likely someone in Jaime's camp who is expendable, so most likely Randyll Tarly, who everybody is just hating on for betraying the Queen of Thorns, and most likely his son Dickon because nobody cares about him. He had like, what, 1 line, so might as well. I'd be really shocked and sad if they killed Bronn, though. We haven't had a severe punch to the gut in a while, so there you go. One character I will say I would be very sad to see go, but not surprised, even more so than Bronn, is Theon. He's been laying low ever since the second half of Season 6, and they've given him less and less to do, and that's the usual sign someone's gonna die very soon. Next question on Twitter, Carmine, what was the point in giving Jorah greyscale, and what's next for him? So, it doesn't matter what Jorah does. He could fall into an active volcano, and apparently Sam will still bring him back. I really don't see the point in him being cured by greyscale so quickly like that. His removal from the story didn't really do anything. He's going back to Dany's, so whatever. But I don't understand why they had to give him grayscale to begin with. Did the actor want some time off or something? I forget what show this is, but there was one where I used to watch when I was younger, and the filming was done in New Zealand, and one of the actors was from the US, so they made up these episodes where he was stuck in costume, and they recorded his voice for those episodes so he could be with his family for a couple of weeks. I also know that Jorah's actor probably needed that time off to film the last Resident Evil movie, so there's that. It's the only explanation I have for how, lame this grayscale storyline turned out to be. Some of you guys have been saying that it's all leading up to the Archmaester giving Sam a copy of those scrolls as a way to give Sam some more knowledge because those scrolls are, from the restricted zone. Okay, fine, but why use Jorah's grayscale curing as a means to do it? Sam took those writings before, so why not have him continue to sneak around and get them? It honestly just seems like sloppy work in my opinion. Next question from Charlie's. Do you think Jaime, if he tells Cersei that Tyrion didn't kill Joffrey, do you think she'll forgive him? No, he still killed Tywin. That's still a thing. People keep forgetting that Jaime was on Tyrion's side for all of Season 4, but when Season 5 came around, he was super pissed that his brother killed their father. Not only that, but Cersei, even if Tywin wasn't dead, she would still hate Tyrion for being born. In the books, it's because she thinks that he's the Valonqar who would choke the life out of her, but in the show, Cersei really hates him for being born and killing their mom, which in turn caused Tywin to be more of a hard and douchey father. Their mom, Joanna, was one of the few things in Tywin's life to make him happy, and not such a stick in the mud, but when Tyrion was born and she died, then a lot of the happiness in that family died with her. It's sad, but yeah, Cersei will never forgive him for that, and I hope that when Jaime does tell her, she'll try and say that Tyrion and Olenna conspire together, because she's all about, hating him, and you know what? She wouldn't be wrong in assuming that. They both were on Dany's war council not that long ago, so why not? Next question from Twitter. I find it odd that Cersei went immediately to killing the Sand Snakes. Why wouldn't she get info about Dany's plans first? I guess you could argue that revenge blinded her, but getting information out of a prisoner who just hates the hell out of you is also difficult. The argument there is that even if you did get that info from her, then how could it be trusted? Also, I liked it better when Cersei is letting revenge blind her and leading her to do dumb things. It's more within her character to do so, and hopefully we see more of her selfishness this season. Watching her be all strategic is really unsettling because we're so used to her not being this good, and watching her kick ass is just... It's unusual. Next question from Spartan Greg 1. Do you think we'll ever get Varys' full backstory? The one thing I've been waiting for in both book and show is his backstory. We do get it briefly in both of them. In the show, we find out that he hates people who practice magic due to some wannabe sorcerer trying to communicate with supernatural forces. And in the books, we find out that when he was younger, he and his buddy Illyrio, the rich merchant who helps out Dany in Season 1, worked together to scam people. He would steal items from other thieves, and Illyrio would sell them back to the original owner. If the show ever does his backstory, it'll probably be him talking to either Dany or Tyrion about it, and he'll be very brief, which is a shame, because I do enjoy stuff like this. What I really want to know is how he became the spy master for the Mad King in the first place, so hopefully that gets answered this season. Next question from Calvin the Stampede. Hey Carmine, why do you think Jon doesn't want Dany to know he died and was brought back to life? I think Jon's strategy here is to give her one crazy story at a time. If I came to you and I said, hey, there are these snow monsters coming to kill all of us and I need your help to defeat them, and on top of that I told you that I was killed and brought back, it would make me sound like a crazy person. I have a small theory that the Lords of the North, when Jon was talking to them about it in Winterfell, they don't believe Jon and just allowed him to say whatever he wants. Like, he overthrew the Boltons, which everybody hated, but he's earned his place as King of the North, I guess, so let him say whatever he wants. But Jon telling them about his resurrection doesn't really mean much if you think about it. He tells them what happened, okay, then what? All it means is that Melisandre becomes more useful, and probably more of an issue for both Jon and Davos when they don't want her around. If I told you there was someone who could bring back the dead, you'd actively seek out that person and want to know more. Jon and Davos want her as far away from them as possible. As of right now, telling anybody wouldn't be advantageous, especially since they just met and don't know if there's a spy in her camp. Which brings me to the next question. Tier Solutions 128 says, don't you think there is a rat in Dany's camp? How did the Lannisters and Euron know every single plan? I doubt there's a rat in Dany's war council. You could argue it's Melisandre trying to slow Dany down enough and remove some of her allies to the point that she would need Jon's help to try and bring them closer together. With most of her allies gone, I'm sure Dany won't go out of her way to make another enemy that she doesn't need. So there's, the explanation for that. As for Euron ambushing Yara and Theon, that one you could argue that maybe there's a spy among some of the Ironborn in Yara's camp, but they'd have to be super loyal to Euron even after seeing Dany's dragons. And as for the attack on Casterly Rock, that one anybody could see coming, considering Cersei knows Tyrion is on Dany's war council, so she can kind of understand what he might do. Not only that, but you'd have to sail around the continent to get there, from Dragonstone, and by that time, many spies would have already reported their movements to Qyburn, and then to Cersei. Even if they aren't, flying Targaryen sails, it's still suspicious to watch hundreds of ships going in one direction. And last question from Facebook. Carmine, you've read the leaks and said that a lot of it sounds like fanfiction, but so far you've enjoyed the episodes, so I'm confused here. Explain yourself, sir. So for the first episode of the Game of Thrones podcast, my co-host and I read the leaked script for every single episode of Season 7. This was a couple of months ago, and we did comment on how a lot of it read like fanfiction, but there is a difference between reading it and seeing it. I've said it before, if I read that Jon fights Megatron on top of the Death Star, I'm gonna think it's dumb, but if they end up doing it tastefully, then okay, let's go with it. When I read that Euron brings Ellaria to Cersei, I thought, meh, but seeing it on screen and how well it was played makes up for it. Fanfiction isn't bad, it's how they go about it that really messes it up. Some of the leaks have been proven wrong, though some of them have been proven right. And all that being said, the leaks do contain some major fanfiction, some of which I know I won't like, and some of which I'm curious to see how they will play out, but keep in mind that this show, without George Martin, has kind of become like a seesaw. You get really awesome stuff like Euron attacking the Greyjoy fleet, and then you get random terrible things like the writing for Peter Baelish. You get a cool scene between Jaime and Olenna, and then you get pointless stuff with Jorah getting greyscale and having it go nowhere. It's random, so my only hope is that the fanfiction I have read from the leaked material is either wrong or that it can be done right. Reading that Jaime has Olenna drink poison? Meh. Watching it? Oh shit, tell Cersei it was you? Damn girl, you was savage. But guys, that is it for today. As always, leave your thoughts down below and keep on sending your comments and questions to me and I may cover them in the next video. But as always, hit that like button if you enjoyed and hit that subscribe button and I will see you next time. Baba Booey.